The Open Secret, Written Inquiry. Nothing I'm about to say is a substitute for a week of silence. That's still its own thing. But there is something you can do at home in the middle of your regular life that has a similar quality of forcing the mind to stop and be looked at. And that's writing. Not journaling exactly, but writing as inquiry. It has the ability to take us deep pretty quickly. There's a certain way that our mind has to focus with writing and ideas that are appearing as sort of stream of consciousness, and being able to find the ability to let that all come together where you can write in a way that feels easy and real and truthful and honest and non-judgmental. And it doesn't always come at first, when we have to have the courage to begin and find our own way with it, find our own process, our own method. I used to do these long written inquiries, especially when I was on the 60-day silent retreat I did 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago at this point. And it was sort of a seminal event in my life. And I had very few things with me. I only had 2 books. I think I had Nisargadatta's I Am That, and I had a Rumi book of poetry. I had a couple CDs that I brought, compact discs for those of you who don't know what a CD is, because I understood going in that music helped me open up emotionally sometimes in ways that I couldn't always, and it would be just like a little bit of a helping hand. And it turned out to be true. There were many times where it brought on tears when I was very happy to cry and wasn't necessarily able to myself, or didn't even know I wanted to. And then this beautiful song, I put on this beautiful song, and it would, bring me to tears. And I was just so grateful. So I had that. And then I had probably 20 writing pads, 20 of those, 8x11 white pads of paper. And I had studied a lot with Byron Katie for years and worked with Adyashanti for years. Byron Katie, of course, is famous for her worksheets, her Judge Your Neighbor worksheets. I think they've probably evolved quite a bit since then, but basically the same thing, 4 questions in a turnaround. Is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? How do you react when you believe that thought? And the 4th one is, who would you be without that thought? Brilliant, in their simplicity and their power. And I had been on many retreats with Adi at that point, and he told us that when he was a hungry young seeker, probably in his 20s or something, he used to go to this coffee shop, and he would just take out a notebook and just start writing. And my memory of it is that he would sort of ask a question, is something true, and he would just start writing and just write, is this true? And wherever his inquiry would take him, he said he would write for hours sometimes, writing whatever came to mind, whatever he was chewing on at the time, and just questioning that on paper and the power of that. And I know that I had been doing some journals my whole life too. Before that, particularly when I started doing ayahuasca when I was 30, I started writing about my experiences. So I knew the power of writing, and I knew that on this retreat, the 60-day silent retreat, it was probably going to be something I would end up doing a lot of. And I will say, I don't know if I would have survived that retreat, meaning I probably would have left early, had I not had Byron Katie's work. I remember thinking of doing that retreat for years, but I knew I wasn't quite ready. And once I learned Byron Katie's work, and once the 2 months in my life freed up remarkably, I knew I was as ready as I was going to be once I had her work. And it was absolutely invaluable to me. There were just certain things that sitting quietly, meditation in that setting were not sort of the proper method for. I needed something more active. When something really hard was arising, I needed a way to get into it deeply that wasn't just sitting quietly. And writing meditation, writing inquiry, questioning my mind on paper was extremely important to me. And I found out just how powerful it was because in that setting, I became more and more sensitive as the silence and the weeks went by. And when things were difficult and there was nowhere to turn, no distraction, nowhere to turn, just by myself, they became very difficult. So sitting down with a pad of paper and just starting to write, let's say the thought, my mother should have driven me to my soccer game that one day. Maybe I had been resentful for years about that. Let's just say I was just making that up, but it's possible. And just working that. Is it true? Like, am I resentful about that? Should she have driven me? Can I absolutely know that it's true? I mean, these are Byron Katie's questions, but I would use those as a kind of starting point and just start to get more free flowing with it. But everyone finds their way, right? Everyone finds their way with how they write. But the writing itself is the point. The writing itself, just the questioning of the mind on paper is a singularly powerful thing. It's different than doing it any other way. Not to say that every other way isn't effective too, but there's a particular power to putting your mind on paper. And I always got the sense because the mind is so squirrely, and everyone knows that, right? It's working so fast, and ideas and concepts and thoughts and beliefs, fears, all of it, in the form of thought, coming at the speed of light, like changing so fast. It's very hard to corral the mind when it's in a frenzy, when it's really upset about something, when it's really chewing on something. So when you put it on paper, all of a sudden you kind of put a little bit of a noose around it. I mean, I guess we could use like a leash, let's say a leash around it. And you're able to just hold it steady while you work on it. It's not going to jump around like it would without the paper and the pen. And that's extremely, extremely helpful. Extremely helpful to sort of hold the mind to account. You keep looking back like, what am I working on here? I wrote it down. What is this belief I'm working on? Oh yeah, it's that my mom should have driven me to that soccer game. And I might be 4 pages into the written inquiry and just like reminding myself, oh yeah, it's like staying on track, right? It keeps you on track. You write it down, you kind of know. And like I said, you find your own way. Some people maybe quickly who are quite used to writing, and others who aren't. It'll take more time, but I think it's valuable for everyone to try, and maybe there are some it just won't work for. I imagine that's true. So you move on, but certainly worth a try. And I think it's one of the few things that has the potential to take you deep quickly, even in the midst of this busy life. And if for no other reason, that's an incredibly valuable thing. And it doesn't always necessarily matter what the questions are. It helps that we're prompted and have questions if we don't really know how to work with ourselves. But having these questions is just the beginning, right? It starts us off. We just start to look at ourselves differently as we read a question. We have to answer it. And we have to write down that answer. All of a sudden, we're in a new paradigm of how we're looking at ourselves, what we're looking at. It opens something up just by the framing alone. All of this is to say, give it a shot. I don't think you'll regret it.